So, Mark, great to see you again, Aussie. How's it going?
Great, mate. I have to continue to make it work, I think. So here I am. Everything's going well, Mr. Capaldi.
Good.
Bit cool in the winter here in Australia, but still very pleasant.
I'm sure I'd still be sweating, as I certainly have been with this dog of mine. We went on a 6-hour walk last Friday.
6 hours?
Yeah,
My
6
God.
hours. I took a wrong turning. Eunice did offer to come and pick us up, but seeing as we were in the middle of nowhere on the top of a hill, she doesn't have a helicopter to pick us up with, so we just carried on.
You sure there wasn't a couple of pubs along the way that
believe it or not, there wasn't. You know, it was just my reading the wrong instructions.
Right.
Or ignoring the instructions that I should have observed, and ended up going through fields that I didn't need to go, that didn't have like stiles and gates that you could open. So we were scrambling through all sorts of nonsense, kaimak and ferns, you know, the Scottish thistles and all that kind of stuff.
All part of life's experience.
Paul, the biggest laugh was the fact that that I then, as soon as I got back, I had to get ready and go off to work because I was working in the afternoon. And when I came back and asked Eunice how Jock is, she said, "Well, he slept for the last 6 hours."
Was he reluctant to go on a walk the next day?
Oh, he always wants to go on a walk. They're renowned for the fact that, you know, when they work on the farm, they just keep going. They're just incredible. But he's got it kind of easy.
No, that's good. Well, it looks like he's having a good life.
Apart from the fact he's got to put up with me, of course, you know.
Yeah, well, we all have crosses to bear, right? So.
Exactly.
Well, that's what Eunice tells me anyway.
Exactly. So anyway, I had any phone conversations with Mr. Avery?
The last time I spoke to Stephen was about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
No, actually, a little over a week ago, I should say.
Yeah.
I often hear from him either on a Sunday or Monday, and I hadn't heard from him this last Monday.
Yeah.
So it would be, I guess, about 8 or 9 days ago I last spoke to him. But as I always say, he's in very good spirits, and always good to have a bit of a chin wag to him about all sorts of silly stuff and important stuff, and always sends his best wishes to everyone. And he's obviously quite anxious, as we all are, that the Court of Appeals stops messing around and comes down with some decision.
Well, yeah, I mean, the speculation was it could be a month, it could be 3 months. You know, we'll just have to wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a bit kind of I don't know. With due respect to everyone, it's a bit unfair. Like, they've had this matter now for a year, right? Yeah. The data behind the matter has been on the table for, by and large, 18 months before that, maybe a little longer. So there's nothing particularly unusual about what they're considering. And this is a procedural claim. It's a procedural claim based on newly discovered evidence and scientific testing and Brady violations, right? So they shouldn't be taking very long to decide these things. And and then either an evidentiary hearing or a trial would spend the time on finding out the validity of it.
Exactly.
But prima facie, it's got legs, and the Court of Appeal should just grant at least an evidentiary hearing.
Exactly. And one wonders what the wording or the tone of the decision will be this time. You know, having remanded the case twice back to Angie, part of me thinks that Catherine Zellner is delighting in pointing out to Angie that, she's back in the wrong horse, so to speak.
Well, perhaps, but I think the main game is getting Stephen and Brendan out of prison. Based on, a failure to be given a fair go, basically.
Yep.
And she's done the homework, the hard work.
Yep.
Over, what is that now, 4 years?
Well, I think she took on the case more or less in January, didn't she? 2016. So
yeah,
5 years.
so 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. She, and of course representing Stephen, deserves their day in court.
Yeah.
It's not a frivolous claim. It's very well constructed and based on the law and based on newly discovered evidence. So he deserves his day in court.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've only got to look at the way that she completely bamboozled the state in the last motion and then response to the state's response to see that she knows what she's doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If there's she's good with many things, but one thing she's always good with is being thorough.
Yes.
So even though when that first motion was put forward about the discovery of someone allegedly pushing the car, you knew that she wouldn't just accept that as kind of allegation, if you like, without her own homework.
Exactly.
She's not that sort of lawyer. So, but anyway, there's a court of law to have these matters thrashed out in, and that's where she should be, and that's where the Court of Appeal should give her day in court.
Absolutely. Moving on to Brendan. Obviously, I had a great and really enjoyable chat with Pete on Sunday. Yes. We've had to move to Sunday because of my addiction to Speedway.
I've noticed again.
Yeah. and you know, bizarrely, who invented Speedway?
Probably someone from Australia, was it?
Yeah. It's an Australian sport. You invented it. Yeah.
I remember when I was a teenager watching them whip around those dirt tracks in those cars.
It's not cars, it's bikes.
Oh, well, didn't they have those sort of
stock cars as well? Yeah, stock cars as well. Yeah. Steve's quite into the stock cars, isn't he? He used to go along.
Yeah. Anything that's got an engine in it, he'll go for. He loves his motor vehicles. So, but well, that's a good enough excuse for anything, Paul. So Sunday it shall be with Mr. Dassey's discussions. Yeah.
But as I say, the Aussies invented the Speedway, which in the case of motorbikes is a 500cc engine with one gear that goes from 0 to 60 quicker than a Formula One racing car.
Wow.
Under 2.5 seconds. But only an Australian could invent a sport that involves a bike that goes that fast and doesn't have brakes.
I'd see them go around the track and I think, physically, how challenging that must be to be in that position where
incredible.
So, there's a lot of forces on that body going around those corners so fast. They're holding the bike at such a low angle, and one leg sort of partly there just waiting to touch the ground. And I think, God, that's just an amazing bit of athleticism to do what they do.
I mean, some of the Speedway riders I've seen, they've got like forearms like Popeye, where they've had to train to hold on to, as you say, just to hold on to the bike. And of course, the right leg is taking all the pressure. I mean, in actual fact, bizarrely, it's a former Berwick legend, Speedway rider Ricky Ashworth, is actually a subscriber to the channel, and I've exchanged messages with him, and he's a keen supporter of Steve and Brendan as well. Yeah. Ricky Ashworth. Unfortunately, he suffered a very bad crash, and he's now sort of confined to a wheelchair.
Oh,
yeah. But recent footage of him getting on a bike again at the velodrome down in Manchester and cycling. Wow. And the doctors told him, you'll never walk again. And he stuck 2 fingers up at them and said, I'm going to get on a bike again.
That's courage.
It is.
Yeah. So.
Getting on to Brendan, I wanted to tell you, in case you hadn't heard the news, that there's this Senate statute. Let me get the right wording. Hold on a sec. 2 seconds. Let me get the right wording for this, because I sent messages to and from. myself and Mr. Drizzen. Yeah, so Senate Bill 2122. Have you heard of this?
This is the Illinois one that we're referring
Yes.
to?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. I have indeed. I have indeed. It's exciting that it's there, but it's remarkable that it's needed.
It is,
to be
isn't
honest.
it? Yeah.
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 But you know, you got to be positive about the things that are there to be positive about, and such a piece of legislations that, correct me if I'm wrong here, that prohibits people lying to
Yeah.
juveniles.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is, you know, a fabulous piece of legislation. I mean, it seems odd, as I said, to me, that you need to legislate for such a thing, but nonetheless, it's a great outcome. So, and you know, hopefully we'll see some movement on the same thing in Wisconsin, just up the road. So,
well, I mean, the thing is that the you know, this is the law in Illinois, so you know, that's where the on-bank hearing was.
exactly.
And you've got Judge Hamilton. Well, you know, so many things wrong with what he said. You remember when Kathleen Zellner said of him, you know, reading his opinion, that, you know, that the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeal is not here to you know, to look at best practices, you know, when it comes to juvenile interrogations. And Kathleen Zellner sort of throws it down and says, why wouldn't you want to avail yourself of the best minds on this subject? Why not?
Exactly. I mean, the law should be an evolving thing. If there are best practice issues that should contribute to the evolution of the law, because the law is partly statute, partly precedents, partly common law. Those three things usually make up all the body that is the law. And why wouldn't you avail yourself of such things to help evolve the law? That's what the role, especially at that senior level, the role of the justices is, to make sure the law is both relevant and evolving for the interests of society.
I mean, at that point there, I feel like Judge Hamilton is being like Pontius Pilate, just washing his hands, you know, as if it's nothing to do with me. So, you know, I'm a judge, but I don't need to.
I found his approach very, what's the right word? A bit contemptible, really. I think he thought, I don't know, I couldn't see the merit of anything that he was saying.
Yeah.
Procedurally or otherwise. You know, the law should be about the discovery of the truth. That's what it should be about. And that argument before the Seventh Circuit on-bank group and the previous ones at federal court levels was about truth discovery and how Brendan's habeas rights had been compromised by the way in which he was treated, and how in particular that law enforcement failed to acknowledge in their actions Brendan's entitlement to special care. But, you know, and the very fact that you got a 180-degree diametrically opposed view from the dissenting opinion.
Yes.
Not just a little bit different, massively different, shows you that someone there is massively out of step with public opinion, not just, if you like, sentiment, but public view about the proper conduct when it comes to juveniles, and particularly someone of Brendan's set of circumstances. But Judge Hamilton seemed to be totally comfortable with playing this, you know, high and mighty sort of, I don't know what you'd call him. I thought it was very disappointing, to be honest.
It's defend the state at all costs, isn't it? But I mean, you know, for me, as you kind of, you know, put your finger on the hit the nail on the head again. You know, it's almost like the dissenters are embarrassed almost by the opinion of the majority judges in this. But what's going to be interesting, of course, is at some point in the not too distant future, hopefully Laura, in whatever other case she's doing, will come up in front of Judge Hamilton, and he can ask her the question. And so what are the police supposed to do? Are they allowed to bluff? And she can say, well, contrary to my answer that I had to give you when it was Brendan Dass's turn, no, we've been saying this for many, many years. As you've just said, it should be a given. You know, don't lie, don't try and mislead kids.
Especially, no,
Yeah.
don't mislead children, anyone under age 18, and especially be hypersensitive to that matter when you have someone with Brendan's learning needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interestingly, however, of course, that the Illinois legislation has a large part of Brendan's story behind it.
Yes.
In other words, the awareness of what happened to Brendan Dassey in Wisconsin is one of the major drivers in this piece of legislation.
Yeah.
So if you have legislating officers making law that is based on grave concern about someone who is still locked up in prison, what does that say about Wisconsin legislators, or in particular Governor Evers, right? Brendan's circumstances and what happened to Brendan Dassey is quoted throughout the legal profession as absolutely wrong. But in good old Wisconsin, it's like they're in their own world and nothing else matters.
Yes.
So,
it does kind of beg a belief, doesn't it, that people are just quite happy to go along with what was parroted to them. They were told that this case was all solved by this wonderful prosecutor who let's face it, Stephen Avery was charged with rape and found not guilty eventually, 18 years later, by a prosecutor who did rape several victims, by abusing his power and authority, and is no longer a special prosecutor. As far as I'm concerned, he never was a special prosecutor. There's nothing special about him, is there?
Well, not if you term the word special in a positive sense. If you turned it in a negative sense, he was extremely special. So, but I mean, here's the thing, Paul, I'm not a person prone to being crazy and offbeat, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that.
I might be at times.
So, to anyone with a modicum of reasonableness and independence would say, Brendan Dassey, the only thing that holds Brendan Dassey in prison is his coerced confession. He recanted that confession in his own case. And for some God unknown reason, the jury found him guilty. And that's just a mystery. You've got a 16-year-old at the time, or 17 at the time of his trial, I think he was, and now 31 or 30, nearly 32-year-old, being in prison because of bad behavior and of law enforcement. He shouldn't be there. And every day that Wisconsin keeps him there is a blight on the judicial process of Wisconsin. And to some degree, I mean this with greatest respect, to some degree on the citizens of Wisconsin by turning a blind eye to this. And I don't mean that, try to be unkind, but it's true. If you see an injustice, you should speak up about it. And Brendan Dassey should not be in prison, nor should Stephen, of course, but we're focused on Brendan at the moment.
I mean, we do have a certain sympathy for the people in Wisconsin because, if they see this injustice, what can they do? They can't call the A-team. And, to be honest, I would place a lot of the blame on the journalists. I thought the media were appalling following the case.
Yes,
you've got some ridiculous ideas. As I've harped on about this so many times. Here in the UK, 2003, Soham murders. Maxine Carr refers to Hollywell's Jessica Chapman in the past tense. They were nice girls when they're only missing people, missing persons. Immediately, investigative journalists were jumping on that. Immediately the police responded to that. You've got Mike Holbrook when, Teresa's a missing person. The grieving process could last days, weeks, years, and nobody bats an eyelid. And everybody's like, it's just his way of speaking. No, it's not. It's game changing.
Absolutely. I mean, so to me, there are two big issues that contribute to this, and I know we've spoken about it before. One, of course, is the prosecutorial
Oh, yeah.
immunity, and also for law enforcement, qualified immunity. And secondly, I do not agree at all that that capital type cases, or high profile cases that involve murder and such things, should be held in the local county or counties.
True.
Where you politicize the process. It's like a lynch mob type mentality.
Yeah.
Brendan and Stephen's cases should have gone down to Milwaukee or somewhere like that,
Madison, yep.
and to be conducted. And the other element that I think contributes to that problem is this politicization of the judiciary, where judges get elected and sheriffs get elected and so on. I just don't think that serves any real purpose. I've said it before, people should be appointed on merit and removed if they don't demonstrate the worthiness of that appointment. But when people start behaving because they're thinking I'm up for election next year, then you're really compromising the independence of the judiciary. So
I find it fascinating, the number of district attorneys that then see that not as a not as a pinnacle of their career. That their career is to then go on into either being a judge or most often into politics. I find that quite disturbing, that that they're just going to carry on riding the wave, as it were.
And then because if you get elected by the community, so to speak. Firstly, we know that the turnout in American elections is low anyway, but in these sorts of elections, you're lucky if you get 10% of the population even bothered to turn out.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, people are going to sort of behave and act in accordance with their political imperatives. So whether you're the one being elected or you're the one wanting someone in particular to be elected, you're going to, wield your influence over them. Mm-hmm. So just think it's wrong. And, the level of incarceration in the US is part of the example of what happens when that occurs.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, it's been great chatting with you, but I realise that it's getting very late in the evening over there for you. So I'm going to say cheerio. Thank you for joining us, and look forward to chatting with you soon. I will send you those pictures of Captain Crunch on his travels.
Oh, okay.
he's been traveling, so I mean, obviously he's back home, but
yes, he is.
He is. You got to remember, you got to go the opposite way.
That's right.
On these
exactly.
things. But no, obviously, keep taking the phone calls from Steve, letting us know how he is. And as I say, great to have a chat with you again.
I might try to. Oh, you're very welcome, Paul. Anytime. I might try to have a chat with Steve sometime soon and record the chat.
Oh, that would be good.
Provided I'm not breaching any rules about recording it.
Yeah.
I just have a chat that's based upon how's as if you were interviewing him, in other words.
Yeah.
So
but not as if I'm interviewing him. As if
no,
our top interviewer is interviewing.
Yeah, he wouldn't get a chance to say anything if you were interviewing.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Mark.
You're very welcome, Mr. Capaldi.
Okay. Listen, I'm going to say cheerio. I'm going to go and do some more work to this kennel. I've got a few more things I want to add, but I need. I need to go down and post a T-shirt, a control question T-shirt, out to a supporter over there in America.
I won't get undressed on screen, but under this I'll just pull it up so you can see.
Oh, the original. Yeah, one of the originals.
Yeah.
That's not even got the hashtag Brendan Dassey, has it?
Let me have a quick look here. I don't think so. No, it doesn't. Nope, it doesn't.
Yeah. No, that's one of the originals. I actually gave my original to my daughter's boyfriend because it was just a nice thing to do. I mean, I've got one over there in the blue, but Anyway, I better get on with posting and get the dog out for a walk, fix his kennel up a bit more, and send
You
you
just need to
the.
put you just need to put an extension on the kennel just in case you get booted out of the house from time to time. So
It's large enough. It's large enough. Eunice has noted it's large enough for the two of us.
yeah.
Anyway, Mark, I'm going to say cheerio, and
Thanks, mate.
you're very
All the
welcome.
best. Give my
Cheers.
best to Eunice as
I
well.
will do, and
Thanks,
all the
mate.
best to you.
See
Cheers.
ya.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye bye.